we're getting a lot done in this short period of time. That's nice. Whenever you're doing texturing, there's going to be a lot of changes that are going to be done. So just get ready to save after doing your texturing. Once this is done, then we'll go ahead and do let's do shadows for the walls so that way we can get the shadows right. I want to select all, turn all of them off, and then I'll go back to shapes. Now I can select all the shapes easily. And then I can go right in here to this advanced stroke option, turn shadows on. Perfect. Let's turn the shadows all the way up. Maximum blur. Bring those intensity up. There we go. And now we can really, really get those buildings to pop out more because we use those shadows to really get it to pop. So now we have those nice shadows. The structure looks like it pops more. Perfect. That's great. Let's do some interior walls. And I'll show you how I go about doing a little bit of architecture. A lot of these buildings are very small, right? They're not particularly massive, so you don't need to add rooms to a lot of them. A lot of them can just be a single room. But ones that are large enough to make a room, the way that I set this apart is if it's a small structure, there are really two rooms to me that are the most important. And that first room is going to be your bedrooms, your living space. Where do people sleep? And then where do they cook to eat, right? So if you're doing a village and most of the village buildings are small, you don't have to worry about adding a dining room and a living room or a ballroom or anything like that, right? Because it's a small structure. So the way that you should set it up is the first room that you walk into when you go into any kind of structure is it's probably going to be like a living space where the cooking is going to take place. And then other rooms will be on the side that are going to be closed off with walls. So let me turn snap to grid off. And what we'll do is when you first walk in like this, that first room is going to be like a kitchen space, right? So I'll go ahead and go across like this and then put in my wall. And this room right here that's secluded from where the main entrance is, this room right here will be a bedroom or bedrooms or storage or whatever it is. And this room that you first walked into, that will likely be your kitchen space. I hope that makes sense. And what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and move it in a little bit so that way there's a little bit more room in the cooking space. And then there's room there. And we can make this one large room or we can split it into two rooms like this. So now we have two rooms that are available. Why don't we also go ahead and create the doors? And when you have square rooms like this, putting the doors to the side, like to the far left or to the far right, will cause you to have room for putting beds and dressers. If you put a door directly in the center, notice that you don't have a lot of room on either side of where the door is and where the wall is to put stuff. But if you move the door off to the side like this, then you have some room to place furniture. So kind of an important thing to remember. If you move things over, move the door over like this, you'll have room to put things. So that's kind of super important when you're putting things together. So now we have those rooms separated. Why don't we also put down our thresholds, copy and paste a known threshold, and then place it down like this. Copy and paste another threshold. And then we can continue adding in the room for the next building, right? So in this one right here, there's not a lot of space in this room right here. So we might want to consider having a room be right here, or we can go like this and then put a little diagonal in there just to break up the 90-degree angles there. We'll put a little 90-degree, break that up, little wall there. That looks nice. There's not much room. By doing it this way, we could also, if you don't want to break up that 90, we could also do it like this to where it goes across like this. And let's give it more room. Maybe something like about that space should look good. One thing that I'm always factoring in is where the fireplace is going to be. So I think this is just too small to fit another room. So let's not do that one. Let's have that all be one room. This one right here is big enough though. And it has a little shape that we can use. So let's put a room right here like this. That looks good. Put in the door. Remember the trick, put the door to the side. Then we'll copy paste that threshold. Threshold done. Let's go to this one. This looks big enough to have another room in it, so why don't we do that? Let's have it to be where it's like this. So we'll go across like this, and then we'll connect at an angle like that. In fact, why don't we do this? Angle, go across like this. There we go. All right, that looks good. And this is not going to be a, notice that I used a threshold. That's because this isn't a wall. This is a half step. Okay, so that means that you're going up like maybe one step up to this other level. It's not like a floor, it's a level. So just kind of remember that. And normally what I'll do with a level like this is I'll use a wooden texture underneath. So let me show you how I go about doing that. So let's start with this first one. Like right here, what we can do is to make it to where these rooms look like they're not just all on the exact same level, not floor, level. We can fill each one of these rooms with a different wood texture, and we can change the direction of the grain to make it more interesting. So if I type in wood, like this, and I'll just choose a wood texture of my choice, we're going to want to bring the brightness down as always. And it looks like it's huge, so why don't we also adjust this? And then why don't we have change the rotation? Let's have one grain of wood going across like this. Let's turn off my softness too. There we go. We'll have one piece of grain going that way, and then I'll rotate and then have the grain going in an entirely different direction. Like this. Okay. All right, there we go. So you have the grain facing in different directions, and we can do that same thing here, right? Let's go ahead and change that grain. We'll rotate. Since the room is long, why don't we have the grain also following the length of the room? That kind of makes sense. And then let's do this one as well. Let's rotate it, get it facing the right way. Let's go with the length like this. There we go. Fill it in. Okay, there we go. And when you're making a half step like this, the half steps should be made with the same material as the threshold. So this wooden piece right here, this is the threshold. You don't want to use the brighter wooden color because that's going to represent the wall, right? So don't, when you're making a half step like that, use that threshold instead, so that way it looks like it's only a half step instead of a wall that's blocked off. So kind of helpful information there. Let's take a step back and look at it. Cool. You could put a half step, if you don't want to deal with a wall here, why don't we put another half step on this one? So let's do this. Let's do the half step, go up like this. There we go. And then we can have another half step on this one because I do like half steps quite a bit. They look nice. So why don't we rotate this so that where it at least follows the grain of the wood. So let's have it go maybe this way. One more should be enough. Let's see here. There we go. That should be enough. Put that down like this. There we go. Okay. Now we have those half steps. Another thing that you can do with the half steps is to use shadows. Oop, I just noticed an error on my part right there. There we go. Using object shadows can also create this illusion of a lip or a step. So if I go over here, go to shadow, we're going to do some changes to the shadow here so where it doesn't look like it's, the shadow is on one side. So if I select that, go over here, we're going to go to the shadow settings real quick. We're going to bring the blur down quite a bit. And then I'm also going to do the adjustments to the offset. So where the shadow goes like this. There we go. Let's also change that a little bit. And then we'll bring the intensity down. Bring the blur down a little bit more. There we go. Let's go a little bit more this way. A little bit more down. There we go. And then I should be able to turn the blur on. There you go. And then you've created this illusion of a step. Right? And we can do the same thing over here. We'll take this one right here. And we'll take that same shadow technique, use the object shadows, bring it down. There we go. And then I should be able to create this nice lip from a shadow like that. There we go. Now you don't have to do that with thresholds if you don't want to, but I do that with half steps because it's meant to represent like a full step. A threshold doesn't have to be the same size as an actual step from a staircase. The threshold can be much smaller. You'll notice that when you maybe go through your front door, look carefully at the threshold and you notice that it comes up a little bit, but it's not a full step. Yes, VR headsets while going on a break for milking goats. I love that. Great idea. Yes, I agree. To use the mouse would be much more helpful, Typher Zero. Cannot disagree with that. Absolutely. Where are we at for time? 50. We got 10 minutes left. Let's quickly save and then let's go ahead and throw in the fireplaces because that's going to be super important because the fireplaces are going to be the source, going to be one of the major light sources. So let's put that together. And then I think most of the interior walls and stuff should be done after that. Okay, let's see here. Let's type in two things here. Let's do one, a fireplace. Let's use this one. I'll just place that down right there. And then we'll type in chimney as well. There we go. And there's my chimney. Perfect. There we go. Okay, so I have those. Let's go ahead and turn my grid on. If you don't, sometimes if you're not sure what the scale is at this point, I use a door as my guide for what a 5 feet is. So I'll go ahead and put this fireplace right here where the stone is. This kind of makes sense because this way I don't have to create what's called a fireplace pad, which is generally made of stone or some kind of material that isn't going to burn. Okay. Yeah. I think the darker wood inside really contrasts well with the thatch roof. So I like that. So let's go and put a fireplace there on the metal on the stone as you would expect. Let's put another one right here, and I'm going to put it right next to the bedroom right here so that way heat can travel into the bedroom and keep people warm, right? And that way I'm not going to put any windows next to the fireplace so that way the heat doesn't escape. Let's go to this next section. Let's go ahead and put the fireplace right here. It is right next to the door. You can move it to right here and then put like a chimney pad. That works well. Like that way it could be different from the others, but I think right here by the door is okay. That's all right. Normally I don't put mine by the door, but I think right here is okay. I don't want to make a chimney pad. I'm too lazy to make a chimney pad. Okay, let's put the chimney, let's put the fire on this side, and this way the heat can kind of emanate outward and then go into those rooms right there. So let's do that. There should be, do I get all of them? Yeah, all the chimneys are there, or the fireplaces. Let's also do a chimney. Let's desaturate this. We'll make it gray. I'm going to push it all the way up to layer 5. And then I'll go ahead. These are kind of big. Why don't we use a smaller version of this? Let's use this one. This is a village, right? It's not giant ones. Browser I'm using is Chrome. If Chrome is acting up on you, sometimes right now there is a WebGL error with Chrome. And if you're experiencing that issue, usually when you open up the dev console, it'll say assertion failed. If you see that, switch to Opera, but don't switch to Opera GX because I'm noticing that it doesn't work as well with Opera GX. It works much better with just Opera. So if you have that problem with Chrome, that WebGL error, definitely switch over to Opera until Chrome can get their butts in gear and get that fixed. All right, so we'll put a single chimney there. We'll copy and paste, and then we'll do it to all the other ones as well. Oops, there should be one right here. There it is. That looks good. Oop, that's not even attached to the wall. Oopsie. Sometimes I'll also put a little stone section on the wall as well, where the fireplace is, so that way it doesn't superheat up the wood. I'll show you that in just a second. Let's just put in everything first, and I'll kind of move from there and show you how to do all that. I should have probably created one and then just copied and pasted it, but mistakes, right? So I'll take a stone section like this, and I'll span it the length of the fireplace, like this, and then I'll place that right there like that, and then I have this nice stone section right here, right along the fireplace, so that way it's not superheating up the wood. So I'll copy and paste that section like this to every single one of them. Should have just copied and pasted as a group and then put it down, but it's okay. It happens. There we go. Another one like this. Another one. There we go. And then the last one we'll put right here. There we go. So that works out well. Oopsie, we'll put that right there. And then we'll kind of move this a little bit this way to where it's a little more centered. There we go. Yeah, let's center it a little bit like that. There we go. Looks good, looks good. Where are we at for time? 55, cool. We still got a little bit of time left. That looks good. Let me see, fireplaces are set into place. Cool, looking good. Yeah, this looks good. We'll quickly save it. You know what, we can go on for about, I don't mind going on for another 10 or 15, maybe even 30 minutes, because this is a lot of fun. So let's let that save, and then we will do a couple options here. I did want to do a little bit of interior decorating because I wanted to show people how I